Terrified alien child, begged a human for help. What he found inside her home shattered him. The twin suns of Redhaven burned low over the horizon, throwing long shadows across the colony's metal shacks. The air shimmered with dust and heat, a heavy mix of rust, sweat, and tired dreams. Jace Carter leaned against the side of a cargo hauler, his hands rough from 12 hours of hauling freight. He took a slow sip from his canteen, the water warm and stale but still better than nothing. Around him, the settlement pulsed with quiet life, humans and aliens moving through narrow streets, neon signs flickering, traders arguing over credits no one really had. Jace wiped the sweat from his brow. It had been 6 months since he'd arrived from Earth, chasing the promise of work and a clean start. Out here, days were longer, gravity lighter, and everything felt slightly off, like living in a dream that never ended. He had no family, no friends, only the routine, lift, load, survive. Then he heard it, soft, rapid footsteps behind him. At first he thought it was a scavenger animal, but the sound grew louder, faster. He turned. Through the swirling red dust, a small figure was running straight toward him, tiny feet kicking up sand, thin arms pumping desperately. It was a child, an alien child. She stumbled, caught herself, and kept running until she reached him. Her skin was pale lavender, her hair white as frost and tangled with dirt. Her large eyes glimmered with tears. The sight made Jace straighten instinctively. "Hey, slow down." "What's wrong?" he asked. The girl gasped for air, her translator pendant flickering weakly. Please follow me home," she managed to say between sobs. Her voice was soft but full of fear. She reached out and grabbed his hand with trembling fingers. Jace blinked. "Follow you where?" "Are you hurt?" "Mother won't wake up," she whispered, pulling at his arm. "Please help. No one else will come." Jace hesitated for only a heartbeat. He looked around, no one else even noticed. The street vendors kept shouting, the drunks kept laughing. No one cared. With a sigh, he pushed off the hauler. "All right, little one. Lead the way." The girl's grip tightened as she led him through twisting alleys lined with rusted pipes and broken neon signs. The deeper they went, the worse it got. The air grew thick with the stench of oil and decay. The buildings leaned over them, ready to collapse. Jace had been around rough neighborhoods back on Earth, but something about this place felt worse, forgotten, abandoned. "What's your name?" he asked as they hurried through the narrow maze. "Sarah," she said, her eyes fixed ahead. "Mother calls me Sarah." Finally, they stopped at a half-collapsed metal hut. The door hung crooked on its hinges, light leaking from cracks. Sarah froze at the entrance, her whole body shaking. "In there," she whispered. Jace placed a hand on her shoulder. "Stay behind me, okay?" The smell hit him first, a rotten mix of chemicals, sickness, and death. He stepped inside carefully. The room was dim, cluttered with trash and broken furniture. Empty injector tubes scattered across the floor. And in the middle of it all, lying still on the ground, was a woman. Lavender skin. White hair tangled just like the girl's. Eyes open, staring at nothing. "Damn," Jace breathed. He knelt beside her, pressing his fingers to her neck even though he already knew the truth. Cold skin, no pulse. Too late. Sarah pushed past him, falling to her knees beside the woman. "Mother," she cried softly. "I brought help. Please wake up." Jace felt something tighten in his chest. He'd seen death before, on Earth in back alleys where people overdosed on cheap synthetics. But this was different. The child's voice, the way she clung to the body, the hopeless innocence, it broke something inside him. He reached out gently. "Sarah," he said. "She's gone." The girl looked up at him, her eyes wide and confused. "No, she always wakes up, always." "Not this time," Jace said quietly. His voice cracked. He swallowed hard. "I'm sorry." Sarah's face crumpled. "I tried," she whispered. "I was quiet when she needed quiet. I found food when she forgot. I did everything right." Her words twisted like a knife in his gut. Jace took a slow breath and pulled her close. She was light, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. "It's not your fault," he said firmly. "Do you hear me? None of this is your fault." She trembled against him, small and fragile. "I'm hungry," she murmured weakly. Jace stood still holding her. "Then we'll get you something to eat," he said. "We'll figure the rest out later." He stepped out of the broken hut and into the fading sunlight. The sky above Redhaven burned orange and purple. The world kept turning, indifferent. But for the first time in a long time, Jace Carter felt a reason to move forward. He had no plan, no home, no idea what to do next, but he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't leave this child alone. As he carried her through the dust, the red light of the twin suns faded behind him. From a nearby rooftop, a tall figure watched in silence, its eyes narrow and gleaming, a faint metallic glint in its hand. It tapped a small device once, sending a signal across the colony. Somewhere far away, someone received it, and smiled. The diner sat at the edge of Red Haven's cargo zone, a flickering neon sign that read, Harlan's Waypoint. It was the kind of place that never closed. Always smelled of metal and spice and served food that could keep a worker alive if not happy. Jace pushed the door open with his shoulder, still holding the sleeping alien girl in his arms. Harlan, a grizzled old man with oil-stained hands, looked up from behind the counter. His expression softened when he saw the child. "Another one?" he muttered. "Sit down, son." Jace placed Sarah in a booth, careful not to wake her. Her lavender skin looked pale under the diner's buzzing lights. He sat across from her, running a hand through his messy hair, unsure where to even start explaining what had happened. Harlan didn't ask. He brought 2 steaming bowls of stew and a cup of sweet water. "Eat," he said simply. Sarah stirred, blinking at the smell. Her translator flickered to life. "Is this for me?" "Yeah," Jace said with a small smile. "All yours." The girl ate like someone who hadn't tasted real food in days, quick, messy, desperate. Jace watched her quietly. For some reason, the sight made his chest ache in a way no physical labor ever had. When she finally slowed down, she asked softly, "What will happen now?" Jace looked out the window at the glowing skyline. "I don't know yet, but I'll find someone who can help." Her translator buzzed again. "They will take me to the cold place." "The what?" "The center. For children with no home. They make you sleep in cold rooms, no warmth, no light." Her small hands shook as she spoke. "My friend Leva went there. She cried every night." Jace's jaw tightened. He'd seen places like that on Earth. Crowded shelters run by people who saw kids as numbers, not lives. "You're not going there," he said finally. Sarah blinked, unsure. "Then where?" Jace sighed. "I'll think of something." From the kitchen, Harlan's gravelly voice called out, "You'll need papers, Carter. Colony law won't let a human keep an alien kid without clearance." "Then tell me who to see." Harlan wiped his hands on his apron and leaned closer. "There's a woman. Works at the administrative tower. Name's Aria Cade, Family Services Interspecies Section. She's one of the few good ones left. Tell her I sent you." Jace nodded. "Thanks, Harlan." The old man shrugged. "Don't thank me yet. They'll make it hard. And Carter," he paused, glancing at the child, "watch your back. The gloom trade's been spreading in the alien sectors, Illyri victims especially. If her mother was caught in it, someone might come looking." Jace frowned. "You think that's what happened to her?" Harlan's eyes darkened. "I've seen it before. Gloom messes with their nervous system. One dose too strong." He trailed off, shaking his head. "You did the right thing bringing the kid here. But if she saw something she shouldn't have..." He didn't need to finish. Jace understood. Later that night, as the streets emptied and the neon lights flickered low, Jace carried Sarah through the quiet alleys toward his small room above the dockyards. The colony wind whistled between the metal walls, making them groan like ghosts. Sarah looked up sleepily. "You live here?" "Yeah, it's not much. It's warm," she said softly. Warm is enough. That simple sentence hit harder than he expected. Inside, the room was small. Bed, sink, metal table. He set her on the bed and handed her his old blanket. She wrapped herself tightly, curling up like a small animal. Jace sat by the window, watching the colony lights blink in the distance. His mind raced. Tomorrow he'd go to Aria Cade, file something, guardianship, protection, anything. He didn't know the process, but he knew how to fight when he had to. For years he'd been running from his past, bad decisions, lost people, and guilt that never left. But now, sitting in that dim room with a fragile alien child sleeping beside him, something shifted inside. He wasn't running anymore. He was staying. Outside, the night hummed with the low growl of engines and the crackle of electric signs. Somewhere beyond the docks, a Voxen communicator buzzed to life. A shadowed voice hissed through static. "Human male identified. Accompanied by Illyri juvenile. Begin tracking." In the dim room, Jace didn't hear it. He only looked at the sleeping girl and whispered a promise under his breath. "No one's taking you, kid. Not again." He leaned back in his chair, eyes heavy but mind sharp. The sons of Red Haven would rise soon, and with them would come questions, danger, and choices he couldn't avoid. But for now, there was quiet. The hum of the colony, the sound of a child breathing softly. And for the first time in years, Jace Carter felt like he had something worth protecting. Morning came with the harsh glare of Red Haven's twin suns cutting through the dirty glass of Jace's window. The colony had already come alive, engines roaring, traders shouting, drones zipping through the air. Jace rubbed the sleep from his eyes and looked at the small figure curled up on his bed. Sarah was still asleep, wrapped tightly in his old blanket, her breathing slow and steady. For a moment he just watched her. Peace looked strange on her face, like it didn't belong there. He got up quietly, washed his face in cold water, and glanced in the cracked mirror. Tired eyes, scar on his cheek, a man who'd seen too much and felt too little, until now. He turned when he heard her soft voice. "You didn't sleep?" "Not much," he said. "Had a lot on my mind." Sarah sat up, blinking at the sunlight. "Are we going to the tower today?" Jace nodded. "Yeah, we're going to find that lady, Arya Cade. She'll help." Sarah looked unsure. "And if she won't?" He gave her a small grin. "Then I'll make her listen." The administrative tower stood like a knife against the hazy sky, its mirrored surface gleaming above the rest of the colony. Jace had always hated places like this, too clean, too cold, too full of rules. But this time he had a reason to be here. The guards barely looked at him as he entered, but the clerk behind the counter gave a long, annoyed sigh. "Name? Jace Carter. I'm here to see Arya Cade. It's about an Illyri child." The clerk typed lazily. "You have an appointment?" "No. Then you'll have to wait." Jace leaned forward. "It's urgent." The clerk finally looked up, noticed the small, lavender-skinned girl clutching Jace's hand, and frowned. "You're not family, are you?" "She doesn't have any," Jace said, his voice firm. The clerk rolled his eyes and muttered something under his breath before making a call. A moment later, a door opened and a woman stepped out. "Mr. Carter?" she asked. Jace turned. The woman was tall, with calm eyes and a voice that carried quiet authority. "I'm Arya Cade. Come in." Her office was filled with hollow screens and files, but unlike the rest of the tower, it felt human. There were pictures on the wall, families, smiling children, a colony sunrise. Jace told her everything. The mother, the overdose, the girl alone in the dirt. Arya listened without interrupting, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she leaned back. "You understand that Illyri children fall under interspecies guardianship law, right? You can't just take her home." "She would have died if I didn't," Jace replied sharply. "I don't doubt that." Arya folded her hands. "But if you want to keep her safe, you'll have to do this the right way." "What's the right way?" "Emergency guardianship. It's rare but not impossible." She tapped her console. "You'll need to meet with a cultural liaison, a specialist who works with Illyri children. Her name is Lyra Venn." Jace frowned. "And what will she do?" "She'll decide if you're capable of caring for Sarah." He scoffed. "You mean if I can follow rules written by people who've never set foot outside this tower?" Arya smiled faintly. "Maybe, but she's fair. Hard but fair. If you want to protect that child, you'll pass her tests." Sarah tugged on his sleeve. "Tests?" she whispered. Jace crouched down. "Just people making sure we're good for each other, that's all." "Will they take me away?" He met her eyes. "Not if I can help it." The meeting with Lyra Venn took place in the Illyri sector, a different world compared to the steel and neon of the human side. Everything here curved and shimmered. Walls glowed softly. The air was warmer and faint music hummed from invisible speakers. Lyra was waiting in a small room lined with flowing silver patterns. She was striking, tall with pale violet markings across her skin and silver eyes that studied Jace like a puzzle she wasn't sure she wanted to solve. "So," she said, her translator pendant turning her voice into flawless English, "you are the human who believes he can care for one of our young." "I don't just believe it," Jace replied evenly. "I already am." Lyra tilted her head, unimpressed. "Intentions are not enough. You must understand her kind, her needs. Illyri children require balance, ritual, rhythm, connection. Fail to provide that and she will break." "Then teach me," Jace said. Lyra's silver eyes narrowed slightly. "Very well. You will begin now. First task, bring her a proper Illyri meal before sunset." You may not use human food. You may not ask anyone from your own species for help. If you fail, the guardianship ends before it begins. Jace blinked. You're serious? I never joke about a child's welfare, Lyra said, her tone like steel wrapped in silk. Sarah looked between them nervously. You can do it, she whispered. Jace gave a small smirk. Guess we'll find out. He stepped out into the Aeleri market, a swirl of light and scent unlike anything he'd seen before. Stalls made of living coral, fruit that glowed softly, liquids that shimmered like stars. Everyone spoke in soft tones that didn't quite match the translator hums. He stopped by an older vendor arranging bright, glowing leaves. Excuse me, I need a meal for a child, Aeleri about this tall. He gestured with his hand. The vendor eyed him warily. Human? Guilty, Jace said with a grin. After a pause, the vendor sighed. 2 streets down, 3rd stall with blue lanterns. Ask for Miri. She knows what young ones need. When he returned to Lyra's hall with a basket of glowing fruit, steamed tubers, and warm crystal nectar, Sarah's eyes lit up instantly. It smells like home, she said softly. Lyra watched silently as Sarah ate, then turned to Jace. You listened. You asked. You learned. Most humans would have guessed or given up. I don't quit easy, he said. Lyra's lips curved in the faintest smile. Good, you'll need that stubbornness. Tomorrow your second test begins. Jace raised an eyebrow. What's that one? Lyra's silver gaze flickered with something almost like amusement. You will find out. When the sun set again. Outside, Redhaven's twin suns dipped low over the horizon, bathing the alien district in violet light. Jace stood there for a long time, watching the stars flicker to life above. He didn't know what test was coming next, but for the first time in years, he was ready for anything. The suns were dipping behind Redhaven's metal skyline when Jace returned to his small room. The glowing haze outside painted the window orange and violet. Inside, Sarah sat cross-legged on the floor, humming softly, her eyes fixed on the tiny lamp he'd bought from the Aeleri market. The light shimmered like liquid stars across the wall, forming moving patterns that calmed her. Jace leaned against the doorframe, tired but oddly content. You like it? He asked. She nodded. It feels like home. Her voice was soft, but it hit him in the chest. Then it's staying, he said. He had passed Lyra Ven's first test, barely. But the look on the woman's face when she saw Sarah eat the meal had said enough. Respect. Cautious, reluctant respect. Still, she had promised another test. A harder one. For now, though, the girl was smiling, and that was enough. He cooked a simple meal, human food this time, and tried to eat, but his thoughts kept circling. Why would the Aeleri woman test him like that? Why would Harlan warn him about smugglers? And most of all, why did Sarah's mother die clutching a homemade pipe filled with something alien? The door buzzer broke his thoughts. Jace frowned. No one visited him. Ever. He checked the monitor. Empty hallway. Just flickering lights. He stepped closer. A faint sound came from the other side, metal tapping softly 3 times. Then silence. His instinct screamed. He reached under the table, pulled out the small pulse pistol he kept hidden, and motioned for Sarah to stay quiet. She froze instantly, her big eyes locked on him. The taps came again. Then a voice. Calm. Female. Familiar. Open up, human. It's Lyra Ven. Jace let out a slow breath and lowered the pistol. When he opened the door, the tall Aeleri stood there, her silver markings glowing faintly in the dark. She looked different, tense, alert, like someone expecting danger. You shouldn't be here, he said quietly. Someone might— I was followed, she interrupted, stepping inside. Your apartment isn't safe. Sarah's small voice broke the tension.
Teacher Lyra?
Lyra gave her a brief smile before turning serious again. There's something I need to tell you both. Jace folded his arms. Start talking. Lyra placed a small crystal device on the table. It projected a floating hollow image of shipping logs, names, and coded numbers. Your human friend Harlan was right. Sarah's mother wasn't just a victim of gloom. She worked near the source, transporting medical supplies for a company that doubled as a smuggling ring. Jace frowned. And she got in over her head? Lyra nodded. She tried to blackmail them for enough money to flee the colony. They silenced her. Jace swore under his breath. So that means she may have hidden something before she died, Lyra said. Evidence, proof, and they think the child knows where it is. Sarah looked confused. I don't know anything, she said. I just want to go home. Lyra knelt in front of her. I know, little one. But they believe you do. That's why you must stay close to Jace. He's your guardian now. Jace blinked. Wait, I'm what? You passed the first test, Lyra said. And whether I like it or not, the bond between you two has already begun. Bond? Jace asked. She hesitated, then said softly, Illyri children form emotional links through trust. It's rare for them to attach to a human, but when they do, it's strong. Pain shared, fear felt. If you leave her now, it could destroy her. Jace looked at the small girl clutching his sleeve. He didn't need the explanation. He already knew. Lyra continued, I will help you move her somewhere safe. My home has protection systems. The smugglers will not risk entering the Illyri district. Jace shook his head. If they're watching us, moving her might make things worse. Lyra's gaze sharpened. Staying will get you both killed. Before he could answer, Sarah suddenly gasped. Her eyes went wide, her body stiffened. The lamp's glow flickered violently. Not again, Jace muttered, kneeling beside her. Sarah whispered, She's calling me. Lyra's expression turned grim. Shadow vision. A trauma echo. Jace remembered the Illyri rituals she'd taught him. He took Sarah's trembling hands and spoke softly, repeating the calming words. You're safe. You're here. You're not alone. The girl's breathing slowed. Her eyes fluttered shut and the light steadied again. Lyra stared at him astonished. You stabilized her without training. I just did what felt right, he said. That's what worries me, she whispered. The bond is growing faster than it should. Before he could respond, the apartment alarm blared. 2 sharp tones. Movement detected at the door. Jace grabbed his pistol again. Lyra raised a shimmering barrier field from her wristband, thin but bright. The shadow outside the window shifted, a tall, scaled silhouette, ridged head glinting in the light. A Thrax enforcer. Jace's gut tightened. They found us. The window cracked under a heavy impact. Sparks flew. Lyra turned to him. Take the child. Back exit now. What about you? I'll slow them down. Go. But Jace didn't move. We're not leaving you. Lyra gave him a fierce look, half anger, half respect. You really are the most stubborn human I've met. He smiled tightly. You're not the first to say that. The door burst open. A massive figure stepped through, voice a hiss of static. Give us the girl. Jace didn't answer. He fired twice, blue bolts lighting the room, and dove behind the table, pulling Sarah with him. Lyra shouted in her own language, the air rippling with energy as her shield expanded and blasted the attacker backward. The enforcer roared, smoke rising from its armor. Move! Lyra yelled. Jace scooped Sarah into his arms and bolted through the maintenance hatch at the back of the apartment. Metal stairs spiraled down into darkness. Behind him, the walls shook with another blast. He ran until his lungs burned. Lyra close behind, the distant echo of heavy boots following. Finally, they reached the lower tunnels, narrow, wet, lit by flickering red strips. The air smelled of oil and steam. Sarah clung to his chest, whispering through tears. They'll find us. Jace looked down at her and managed a small, grim smile. Not tonight, kid. I know these tunnels better than they do. Lyra glanced at him, breathing hard but steady. You planned for this. Let's just say I've had practice running from people who wanted me dead. They disappeared into the shadows, the faint hum of the colony above them. Back in the wrecked apartment. The Thrax enforcer rose slowly, armor cracked but not broken. It tapped a small device on its wrist, sending a signal into the night. Target escaped, it rasped. Human male. Illyri child. Accompanied by cultural agent Ven. A distorted voice answered through static. Then follow them. The girl knows something. And if the human gets in the way, remove him. The connection ended. And in the darkness below the colony, Jace Carter led the child and the alien woman deeper into the maze, toward danger, secrets, and the fight that would decide all their fates. The tunnels beneath Red Haven stretched for miles, carved long ago by miners before the colony's expansion. The air was damp and metallic, echoing faintly with the sounds of distant machinery. Jace moved fast, his boots splashing through shallow puddles. Behind him, Lyra followed with silent precision, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. In his arms, Sarah slept fitfully, exhausted from the fear and chaos. They finally stopped in a narrow chamber lit only by a flickering maintenance light. Jace laid the girl on a blanket made from his jacket and leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "She's burning up," Lyra said, kneeling beside Sarah. She touched the girl's forehead, frowning. "Her temperature is unstable. Emotional overload. If it continues, her body could shut down." Jace clenched his fists. "Tell me what to do." Lyra hesitated, then pulled a small vial from her belt pouch. "This will help, but she needs safety, not just medicine." She injected a drop of glowing blue liquid onto Sarah's wrist. The light spread slowly under her skin, calming her breathing. Jace watched, his jaw tight. "We can't keep running forever." "No," Lyra said, meeting his eyes. "We need to strike back." She activated a small hollow map, its projection flickering on the damp wall. It showed Redhaven's sectors, the trade routes, and a pulsing red point near the docks. "That's their base. The Thrax and Voxen smugglers. It's disguised as a freight company, Zareth Logistics." Jace frowned. "You said they killed her mother because she tried to expose them." Lyra nodded. "And I think she succeeded, partially. I believe she left something behind. Her recording data, maybe hidden somewhere only Sarah would know." He glanced at the sleeping child. "You think her mom left the evidence with her?" "Yes, Illyri mothers often encode memories or information into their children's keepsakes, objects connected to emotional bonds." Lyra's gaze softened. "Did Sarah mention anything about her mother's gift?" Jace thought for a moment. "She said something about a music box. The one with starlights." Lyra's eyes widened. "That's it. The code could be hidden in the harmonics of the melody." "We need that box," Jace sighed. "It's back in the mother's house." Lyra straightened. "Then that's where we're going." They waited until the colony above settled into its night cycle. Then, with Sarah wrapped in Jace's arms, they climbed out of the tunnels, through a maintenance hatch near the industrial zone. The streets were mostly empty now, just a few tired workers and patrolling drones. Lyra led the way through back alleys, her movements swift and quiet. Every few blocks she'd pause, scanning the air with her wrist device. "No signals. We're clear for now," she'd whisper. When they reached the outskirts where the Illyri sector bled into the derelict zone, the smell hit first, chemical fumes and burnt circuitry. Sarah's old home sat at the end of a crooked street, half collapsed, its walls stained by rust and ash. Jace's stomach turned. "Hard to believe she lived here." "Poverty doesn't discriminate," Lyra murmured. He pushed open the bent door, weapon ready. Inside, the scene was just as he'd left it. The scattered injectors, the overturned chair, the silence heavy with memory. Lyra knelt beside a broken shelf, running her fingers along the dust. Sarah said the box had dancing lights. It should react to touch or sound. Jace scanned the room, his gaze landing on a small metal chest half buried under old clothing. He brushed off the grime. When he opened it, a faint, soft tune played, a delicate, haunting melody. Inside was a small, crystalline music box, its shell cracked but still glowing faintly with shifting colors. "Got it," Jace said. Lyra reached for it carefully. "Wait." A faint red light blinked on the floor, an active motion sensor. Jace froze. Trap. The air filled with a low hum and a drone dropped through the ceiling, its sensors flaring red. "Run," Lyra shouted. Jace grabbed Sarah and sprinted for the exit as the drone fired. Energy blasts tore through the walls. Lyra spun, her hands moving in a blur as she projected a shimmering barrier. The drone's shots deflected, sparks flying. Jace reached the door, turned, and fired his pistol. The shot hit the drone's sensor, sending it crashing into the debris. "Move," Lyra urged. "More will come." They ran through the alleys until the house was just a distant shadow. When they finally stopped in an abandoned market, Jace opened his hand. The music box was still there, humming faintly. Sarah stirred in his arms, her eyes fluttering open. "That's Mama's," she said softly. "She said it sings when I'm safe." Lyra studied the box. "She hid something inside this. I can feel the resonance, it's encoded. Can you unlock it?" Jace asked. "Not here," Lyra replied. "We need a lab. Somewhere quiet, somewhere they can't find us." Jace frowned. "You got a place in mind?" She hesitated, then said, "My home. In the Illyri district. It's protected by security fields. They won't dare enter." Jace looked skeptical. "Won't they track us there?" "Not if I cloak our trail." Lyra's tone was steady, confident. Trust me, human. For her sake. Jace looked down at Sarah, who was watching them with tired, hopeful eyes. He nodded. All right. Lead the way. An hour later, they reached Lyra's residence, a curved structure that seemed to grow out of the ground itself, covered in silver vines that shimmered like stars. Inside, it felt different from anywhere Jace had been, warm, glowing, alive. He placed Sarah on a soft couch while Lyra set the music box on a crystalline console. She activated a series of light codes, her long fingers moving with practiced grace. The box unfolded like petals, revealing a small holographic sphere filled with symbols. It's here, she whispered. Encrypted colony records. Names, accounts. Even transport manifests. Jace leaned closer. Can it prove what they did? Lyra nodded. More than that, it exposes who's protecting them. Some of these names are from the colonial government itself. Jace exhaled slowly. Then we just made a lot of powerful enemies. The hologram flickered, then projected an image, Sarah's mother. Her voice was faint but clear. If you're hearing this, it means I'm gone. Sarah, my little star, I did what I could to protect you. The proof is in this box. Trust no one from the council. The smugglers have friends among them. Find someone kind. Someone who listens. Someone human. The recording ended. Silence filled the room. Lyra turned to Jace, her voice soft. She meant you. Jace stared at the box, then at Sarah, who had fallen asleep again. He felt the weight of the woman's final words settle like armor on his shoulders. Then I won't let her down, he said. We finish what she started. Lyra met his gaze, her silver eyes steady. Then we expose the truth together. Outside, lightning flashed across the horizon. The storm was coming, and with it, the fight for Red Haven's soul. Rain lashed across Red Haven, lightning crackling through the hazy dome that shielded the colony from the toxic storms outside. The storm was rare, but to Jace it felt like the world itself was reacting to what they'd just uncovered. Inside Lyra's home, the music box sat open on the console, projecting lines of data like silver rivers flowing through the air. Each name, each code was another nail in the coffin of the people who had turned Red Haven into their personal empire of corruption and fear. Jace paced the room, his hands trembling with restless energy. You're saying half the colony's leadership is tied to the gloom trade? Lyra nodded grimly. Counselors, trade ministers, even the head of the colony's security wing. They used the smugglers to funnel money off-world. Anyone who tried to stop them disappeared. Sarah sat nearby, drawing little circles in the soft light of the hologram. Mama said bad people always hide behind bright doors, she murmured. Jace looked down at her and smiled sadly. Your mama was smarter than all of them. Lyra turned from the console. We can't just release this publicly. If the data isn't authenticated through the right channel, they'll label it fake, and then they'll come after us for defamation. So what's the right channel? Ariacade, Lyra said immediately. She has the clearance and the moral backbone to bring this before the Colonial Council. If we get this to her, she can expose them officially. Jace exhaled. All right. So we take the proof to Arya. Lyra's expression hardened. Not so simple. The smugglers still have influence and security. They'll intercept any transmission before it reaches the council servers. We'll have to deliver it in person. Then we go now, Jace said. Before they realize we've cracked the encryption. Lyra didn't answer immediately. Her gaze flicked to the window where rain streaked down the curved glass. They already know, she said quietly. At that moment, the power cut out. The room plunged into darkness. Then came the sound, slow, deliberate footsteps outside the door. Jace's pulse quickened. They found us again. Lyra activated her wrist guard, flooding the room with a soft blue glow. Take Sarah, back entrance. What about you? I'll buy you time. No. Jace's voice was firm. We do this together. Before she could argue, the main door exploded inward in a burst of light and debris. 2 Thrax enforcers stepped through, armored and armed with plasma rifles. Behind them, a Voxen officer entered, his scaled face twisting into a cruel grin. The human and the child, he hissed. Give them to me and maybe you'll live long enough to regret it. Jace didn't reply. He flipped the table for cover as the first plasma shot sizzled past his head. The air filled with the smell of ozone. Lyra fired her own weapon, a compact energy bow that glowed with Illyri light. The first shot hit a Thrax square in the chest, sending him crashing into the wall. Move, she shouted. Jace grabbed the music box and pulled Sarah close. "Hold on tight!" They dove through the back hallway as energy bolts scorched the walls. The building trembled under the assault. Lyra followed, sealing the door behind them with a quick pulse of energy. "Down the ridge path!" she ordered. "We'll lose them in the rain." Outside, the storm hit them like a living thing, cold, furious, alive with static. The neon lights of Red Haven flickered in the distance, distorted through sheets of rain. Jace's boots splashed through mud and puddles as he carried Sarah, shielding her with his jacket. Behind them, the enforcers roared, firing blindly into the storm. Lyra moved like a streak of silver light beside him, her markings glowing through the darkness. "There's a maintenance tunnel up ahead," she called. "It leads straight to the central plaza." They reached the tunnel just as another plasma blast hit the ground behind them, sending a wave of heat across Jace's back. He stumbled, nearly dropping the music box, but Lyra caught his arm. "Don't stop," she shouted. They sprinted through the tunnel, water dripping from the ceiling, until a faint glow appeared ahead, the light of the plaza. When they emerged, they found themselves in the heart of Red Haven's administrative district. The massive tower of the Colonial Council loomed above them like a spear of glass and metal. Jace stopped, breathing hard. "We made it," Lyra nodded, scanning the rooftops. "Don't celebrate yet," a new voice echoed through the storm. "Too late for that." From the shadows stepped the Voxan officer again, soaked, furious but smiling. Behind him, more enforcers appeared, blocking every exit. Jace's grip tightened on the music box. "You want this?" he shouted. "Come get it," the Voxan sneered. "You're brave, human." Stupid but brave. Before he could fire, a blinding flash split the air. From the side street, a convoy of armored drones surged in, their lights cutting through the rain. The lead drone projected a familiar face. "Arya Cade, stand down," her voice thundered. "By order of the Colonial Authority, you're under arrest for trafficking and corruption." The enforcers hesitated. The Voxan roared in frustration, turning his weapon toward Sarah. "If I die, the child dies with me." He fired. Jace moved without thinking. He dove in front of Sarah, the plasma shot grazing his shoulder but missing its mark. Pain exploded down his arm, but he stayed on his feet. Lyra's bow sang again, a flash of white light, and the Voxan fell, his weapon clattering across the wet ground. For a moment, there was only the sound of the storm. Then Arya herself stepped out of the armored transport, soldiers fanning out behind her. "You two look like hell," she said, half smiling as she took the music box from Jace's shaking hands. "But you did it. This will bring the whole system down." Jace winced, clutching his arm. "Just make sure it was worth it." Lyra supported him as medics rushed over. "You risked your life for someone not even your species," she said quietly. "Why?" Jace looked at Sarah, who was hugging his uninjured arm tightly. "Because someone has to." Hours later, from the window of the med bay, Jace watched the storm fade. The suns were rising again, spilling gold light over Red Haven. He turned to Lyra, who stood beside him. "So what happens now?" She smiled faintly. "Now the truth spreads. The corrupt fall, and the girl gets her future back." Sarah's laughter echoed softly from the other room, light and free. Jace leaned against the window, the pain in his arm dull but bearable. "Guess we survived the hard part." Lyra looked at him with warmth in her silver eyes. "No," she said softly. "The hard part is learning what to do with peace." Outside, the colony shimmered under the dawn, broken, scarred, but alive. And for the first time in years, Jace Carter felt the same. The next 3 days changed Red Haven forever. The storm had passed, but its echoes lingered in every street, every broadcast, every whisper. Arya Cade's report spread across the colony like wildfire. Data, names, recordings, and confessions. Half the council was under arrest. The smugglers' network had been dismantled. The streets, once ruled by fear, were now patrolled by citizens who believed change was possible again. And at the heart of it all was a human dock worker, a frightened alien child, and an Illyri woman who had once doubted him. Jace sat on a bench in the colony's central plaza, his arm still bound in a sling. The air was fresh after the rain, smelling faintly of ozone and spice. For the first time since he'd landed on this world, he wasn't thinking about leaving. Across the plaza, Sarah chased glowing insects around the fountain, her laughter ringing like music through the quiet morning. The bioluminescent water reflected her lavender skin, and she seemed, finally, like a child, not a survivor. Lyra approached quietly, her long coat swaying behind her. Her silver markings shimmered in the morning light, soft and calm. "The council confirmed it," she said, sitting beside him. "Arya's team recovered the full archive. Every corrupt official will face trial. Red Haven's about to be reborn." Jace chuckled softly. "Guess we actually did it." Lyra tilted her head. "You did it. A human with no rank, no authority, and too much heart for his own good," he smirked. "You make it sound like a crime." "Among my people," she said, smiling faintly. "It almost is." They watched Sarah for a while, her laughter echoing against the metal walls. Then Lyra spoke again, quieter this time. "The council wants to finalize her guardianship today. Arya says you've passed every requirement." Jace blinked. "So it's official? She's mine?" Lyra nodded. "By law and by bond." He looked down, emotion tightening his throat. "I never planned to be anyone's anything," he said softly. "But that kid, she made it impossible not to care." Lyra's gaze lingered on him. "She sees you as more than a guardian. To her, you're family. Illyri bonds like hers don't fade easily." He smiled. "Guess that makes us stuck with each other." "And me," Lyra added. Jace turned to her. "You?" She hesitated, then said, "Sarah will need guidance in her heritage, her language, her customs, her spirit." "And you?" She paused, her silver eyes meeting his. "You'll need someone to stop you from charging headfirst into danger again." Jace laughed. "You volunteering?" "Perhaps," she said, and for the first time since he'd met her there was warmth, real warmth in her voice. Later that afternoon, they stood before the Colonial Council's new tribunal, rebuilt under Arya's direction. The hall was bright and full of murmuring voices. Arya herself smiled as she handed Jace a sleek datapad. "This is the official certificate," she said. "You're now recognized as Sarah's legal guardian, and given your actions, an honorary citizen of Redhaven." Jace blinked. "Honorary citizen? I barely keep my tools from rusting," Arya grinned. "Then you'll fit right in. Redhaven was built by people like you, ones who fix what others broke." Sarah tugged on Jace's sleeve. "Does this mean we can stay?" He knelt to her level, smiling. "It means this is home now." The girl's eyes lit up. She threw her arms around him, and for the first time in a long while, Jace felt something he hadn't since Earth, belonging. Lyra watched the moment with a soft expression. Arya turned to her. "You're staying too, I hope?" Lyra inclined her head. "For now. Redhaven needs rebuilding, bridges between species, not just walls of law." Arya nodded approvingly. "Then maybe this world has a chance." That evening, as the suns dipped below the colony dome, the three of them walked through the Illyri gardens. The air glowed faintly with the soft light of living plants. Sarah ran ahead, chasing the tiny floating seeds that shimmered like stars. "She looks happy," Lyra said, her voice a whisper. "She is," Jace replied. "So am I." Lyra glanced at him. "And what about when the next storm comes?" He smiled. "Then we face it together." For a while neither spoke. The night was too peaceful to fill with words. Then Sarah shouted, "Look!" and pointed at the sky. Through the transparent dome above, a meteor streaked past, a bright trail of light across the blackness. "Make a wish." Sarah cried. Jace closed his eyes for a second. "No more running. No more losing the people I care about." When he opened them, Lyra was watching him, her expression soft and knowing. "What did you wish for?" she asked. He shrugged. "If I tell you, it won't come true," she smiled. "Then keep it safe." They stood there together as the stars moved above them, three souls from different worlds, bound by chance, courage, and something deeper. In that quiet, glowing garden, Jace realized the truth that Redhaven had taught him. Humanity's strength wasn't in weapons or muscles or machines. It was in the simple, stubborn ability to care, to protect, to rebuild, to love across every boundary. And as the night deepened and Sarah's laughter echoed through the air, Jace Carter finally felt at peace.